Blog Talk Radio.
Down to sleep, lay me down. I pray my soul is mine to keep. My soul can never step outside this bed, never into all the evil. Now back from the dead.
Are you scared?
He's here.
The calling hours.
When there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk here.
They will say that I have shed innocent blood. What's blood for, if not for shedding?
Welcome to another episode of the Calling Hours Horror Podcast on Horror Society Radio. What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It is I, the Head Undertaker, the Dead Man, Michael Jones of HorrorSociety.com and Living Dead Magazine. It's going to be quite an interesting episode this evening. Episode 56 will have actor, director, and producer David Heavener on. And David's got a wide-reaching span of work. Deadly Reactor, Dragon Fury, Guns of El Chupacabra, The Catcher, which is one I wanted to ask him about. Trying to get Joe Estevez to talk about that film a little bit when he was on, and he didn't want to, so hopefully David will. But we've also got Outlaw Prophet, Evil Grave, Curse of the Maya. I really want to ask him about that because I have a copy of that somewhere, and I can't find it now, but I have a lot of questions about that film. Costa Chica, Confessions of an Exorcist, Psycho Weene, and the upcoming Ghost Aliens. He's also done a wealth of television and other films, so there's going to be a lot to talk about with David, and I'm really looking forward to that. We will also be reviewing tonight in our digital dismemberment spotlights the 15-minute short Klagger from Zallerquad Films, which I really wound up enjoying, so I think people should check this one out. And we're going to have the guys from that on in 2 weeks, so we have that to look forward to as well. And then at the end of the evening in our Scream Factory Spotlight, we are going to be covering their Blu-ray release of Candyman, Farewell to the Flesh. We will also be featuring several bands in our Metal Blade Spotlight this evening. But before we do all that, I do want to say I did get some sad news today. There was a fine gentleman that I worked with in Greensboro several years ago by the name of Anthony Paul Robinson. Great actor, even a greater person. And, you know, I got to work with him on that film. Thought he was a great guy. Met a lot of good people on that set. Unfortunately, Anthony has passed, and I just wanted to send my condolences along. When you work in the industry sometimes, even on an independent level, you meet people who go on to do so much better things and show their talent, and I think Anthony was one of those people. And I know the guys out at Beatdown Boogie, you know, Micah and Blake and Brian, you know, and I know they all miss him a lot too. So, you know, my condolences go out to Anthony Paul Robinson and his family. And see you on the other side, brother. So, but in a few moments, like I said, at about 8:30, we will have actor, director, and producer David Hefner on. So it's going to be a good night, and we will announce something that we normally don't do. At the end of tonight's show, we will be announcing next week's guest live on the air, and let me tell you, it is going to be one hell of a show. We have a true legend coming on the show next week, so that's going to be a lot of fun. We're also going to have some updates on the latest issue of Living Dead magazine, as well as some dates and some more information about the convention that's going on in November. But before we get to that, we're going to go into our first Metal Blade Spotlight for the night. We're going to open it up with a band that named Whitechapel. The name of the CD is Our Endless War. The song is Let Me Burn.
The mouth of hell is open wide tonight. You can't reason with the man who hates everything. I wanna see everyone in pain. I can't change how the way things are down. All I have now is regret, a madness of capital A. I've had it all, the woman of my dreams, all the money in the world, and the sweetest little girl. The perfect life, the American dream, all witnessed by insanity. When do I do the things I do? Why am I able to and now? What would you do if you had nothing left to
Lucifer, from the Satanist that was Behemoth. And we opened it up with some Whitechapel off of their CD, Our Endless War. The song was Let Me Burn. But it's time for some digital dismemberment.
Digital dismemberment.
And in our first digital dismemberment spotlight for the evening, we are going to be covering Zallerquad Films, the short, 15-minute short, Klagger. Let's give you a little bit of background info. For one man, a routine day on the job becomes a hellish nightmare when he encounters a malevolent being trapped inside an abandoned factory. No one escapes the wrath of Klagger in this rustic Texas-style thriller. You know, I usually don't review a lot of shorts on the podcast. Part of the reason is I get a million requests, and there's no conceivable way that I could cover everyone. And I don't want to seem like I'm picking favorites, but kind of met a guy online who goes by Klagger, and he kind of told me a little bit about the film, and he sent me a screener copy, and I have to admit, when it comes to short films, it just definitely packs a lot of things that you want to see. The location, for one, was absolutely stunning. I like the use of natural light and sound, something very similar to what we did when we all worked on Z13 in Greensboro. Blake Fawcett and crew did a really good job of utilizing what was there with a limited budget, and they do a really, really good job with this, with Klagger as well. I really like the character. Initially, I think a lot of people will look at the character and think of Chrome Skull or, you know, something along those lines, but there's just something about the look and the feel of Klagger that I think would make a really good feature-length horror film. You know, when you're watching it, it's definitely supernatural in nature. You know, the poor guy who goes out to this somewhat abandoned warehouse factory, is played by Matthew Aycock, and his name is Perry, and he's going in there to fix something, and Klagger appears, and when he walks, he has this giant wrench, and he's kind of banging it against the pipes, and it makes this very intense vibration noise. And Perry falls through the floor, and Klagger eventually gets to him with his just desserts. I don't want to give away too many of the details. I really want you to watch for the nuances and stuff. But again, it was very well made. It was to the point. Now, again, it was a short, but I think there's a lot that can be expanded upon with this character. Again, I think it's got the right look. The character definitely has the it factor, and one of the things that I really like on the DVD is they have a behind-the-scenes extra, and the character's walking around during a convention, people are taking pictures, and a young filmmaker I'll compare this to, and I hope it's taken his respect on both ends, Billy Pond. There's a small segment where Klagger comes face-to-face with Dollboy, and it almost gives you goosebumps. You know, you get that whole versus thing. You look at the two of them, and you're like, I want to fucking see this. So, you know, I think Billy Pond did a really good job with Dollboy, and there are talks of doing a feature length of that. Hopefully in 2 weeks when I have hopefully Casey Crowe, Matthew Aycock, and Matt Willis on to talk about Klagger some more. You know, I'm kind of hoping to do a feature length because that's an independent crossover that I could see. It just, when you see the characters together, it gives you that chill. And you know, I don't think it's any coincidence that this is a film shot in Texas as well, down there again where Billy Pond is. I don't know what they're putting in the water down there, what's going on, but it seems like the independent scene, especially the short scene, seems to have something going on. So maybe I need to head on out to Texas for a little while and see what's going on in that part of the country. You know, as far as availability, you know, I was sent a screener copy. I'm not sure if this is available anywhere online or if you can purchase it, but there is a Klagger website which you can go to and a Facebook page. I'm pretty sure you can contact Casey Crowe as well, anyone involved with the project and inquire about getting a copy of this, because, again, I think it's something that you're really going to want to see. I mean, if they do a feature, I'm sure this will be included in there on a DVD, but it's nice to have a separate copy. And the film has got a lot of response. Official selection at Comic-Con Horror Fest, this is all 2013. The Macabre Fair Film Festival, which I was a judge for, Mad Monster Film Fest. It was part of the Texas Frightmare Weekend in 2012. So, you know, there's definitely a lot to look at with this, and it won the what is it? I can't quite read what that is. Fear. It won Best Micro Short Paranormal. Looks like Fear 5 Horror Film Festival. So, and, you know, featured in Malevolent magazine. There's, like I said, there's a lot to really look at with these guys. I think Casey Crow's a director that we need to keep an eye on. And like I said, in 2 weeks, we should have him on with everyone else, and we will get some more info on this. But, Billy, if you're out there listening, Casey, you two need to talk about getting Dollboy and Klagger together here in a couple years. I like the way that you've built both of the characters, and I can see that being a draw. It's something that you know, a lot of times in independent films you don't think of two characters and go, man, I'd really like to see him square off against him. This one, these are characters that you could see it and go, man, that would be one hell of a fight. Coming up in about 10 minutes, we're going to have our interview with actor, director, and producer David Heavener. Before that, we're going to go into our next Metal Blade mix of music. We're going to open this one up with Algernon from the CD Elements of the Infinite. The song is Tyrants of the Terrestrial Exodus.
Position, surrender, delay this.
Off of their CD, Rites of Perversion, the song was Gospel of Perversion. Before that, it was Algernon. Off of the CD, Elements of the Infinite, the song was Tyrants of the Terrestrial Exodus. But it's that time to bring on our featured guest for the evening, accomplished actor, director, and producer, David Heavener. David, welcome to the show.
It's great to be here. How are you guys doing out there?
We're good. Sorry, you called in just a minute early there. I didn't mean to torture you with the music, so I do apologize for that.
No, it's perfect timing because I was just getting ready to slit my wrist, and that's when you came in. No, I love the music. Are you kidding? I love it. It's great.
Well, before we even get into your film and everything, your film work, a lot of people may not know about you. When you were younger, at 17, you had gone to Nashville to be a country music singer and songwriter. Kind of tell us about where your love of music came from and how you started to develop that into writing for TV shows.
Well, I tell you, my grandfather, who was an alcoholic, he used to come home. He would disappear for 2 or 3 weeks at a time, and he would finally come home after being gone. He'd be drunk, and I saw the pain that my mother went through and my grandmother, and it just really tugged at my heart. So I started writing these, I guess you'd call them country songs. It was like, are you familiar with George Jones and that type thing? And I didn't even know it. I didn't even listen to country music, but so I'd be writing. They were very sad songs, so a lot of it came out of a part of my life that was a lot of sadness, And then after I was writing for quite some time, I met a guy named Waylon Jennings and Billy Crash Craddock and Marty Robbins, and I started writing for them. And I was fortunate enough to have, some top 10 records as a songwriter.
I think that's pretty amazing. Just that start even there, and then you went on to write music for Hee Haw and The Tonight Show. Was it at that point that the film side of things started to appeal to you more?
Yeah, I started working with Marty Robbins. I don't know if any of your listeners know of Marty Robbins, or if you do, if you remember him or not. But he was an icon in the music industry. And he urged me to go out to Los Angeles and pitch my music out in L.A. to Hollywood. And so I did. I went out there and tried to pitch my music, and nobody wanted my music, but this little Asian guy who was casting for a martial arts movie, Hong Kong movie, he thought I was an actor. So he told me to act like Clint Eastwood. So I did this impersonation of Clint Eastwood, and I got the part in the movie as an actor. The problem is I couldn't act. The second problem is I couldn't do martial arts. So, but anyway, from there, that kind of spawned my career as a actor.
Now, when you started acting, I think the film that you're talking, and if dates are wrong, please feel free to correct me because IMDb is never 100% right with these things. But are you talking about The Border of Tong in 1985, right?
That's right. I was, yeah. It was a true story of the Weene massacre, I think, in Seattle.
Now, for a while there, like you had mentioned, you know, one of the things that when Joe Williamson told me that you were available for interview, you know, I had Mel Novak on, and a lot of people didn't realize how much martial arts stuff he did. You know, when you get into it and you start doing the martial arts types of stuff, you know, did you at some point start taking martial arts? You know, how was it working in that style of film early in your career?
Well, it was terrible because I couldn't even dance, much less throw a kick, you know. But then I did a movie called Raging Cajun with me and Charlene Tilton and Samantha Agar and Sam Bottoms, and I was trained by a guy named Vinny Urquida, who was called Vinny the Jet, and he was, I think, the middleweight champion martial artist of the world. And he trained me for the movie, and I also fought him in the beginning of the movie. He played the bad guy. And so he showed me some decent moves. I had 4 or 5 really good moves, and that was many years ago. And since then, I use those moves a lot in a lot of my films, variations of them, but you know, I have like 4 good solid moves that I make, and it works, you know.
Now, I was not able to track down a copy of it, but it was a film that I had heard of before, and I, you know, did a little bit of looking into it. If your first dip into the genre, so to speak, would be the action sci-fi western Deadly Reactor from 1989.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Can you kind of tell us a little bit about how you got involved with that project, and you know, what did you think of the script? I mean, I really enjoyed the trailer. I'm just trying to track down a copy, and it looks like, if I'm lucky, oh no, this one is one.
Well, let me know if you get a copy. I'll buy it from you. Well, that movie came about. A friend of mine, David Winters, who made, I don't know if you know who David Winters is, but he made a lot of movies back in the 80s and 90s, and he had a studio, and he had saw a movie I did called Outlaw Force, which did very well on video. And he said, I'd like for you to make kind of a post-Holocaust movie. And I said, well, you know, I don't want to make a Mad Max, but I'd like to make a spaghetti western post-Holocaust. And he just said, oh, yeah, cool, go make it. So we all went down to Mexico. A guy named Stuart Whitman starred in it with me. And I think he was in High Chaparral many years ago. And we spent about 4 weeks down there making that film, and it actually got good reviews when it came out, and it was a really fun movie to make because I finally got to impersonate Clint Eastwood, and for real, you know, and I enjoyed it. It was great.
Now, another film that you worked on, and it seems like Trauma over the years has picked up the video rights to a lot of the stuff that you've been in, was 1993's Eye of a Stranger, and was just curious about what was it like working with Martin Landau on that project?
What was it like working with Martin Landau?
Mm-hmm.
Martin was one of the best things that ever happened in my career. I met him when I was younger. I was making movies for HBO. He starred in one of my movies called Eye of the Stranger, and I learned a lot from him. He was a big support for me. Great actor, a real true legend, and but a real down-to-earth guy. And I've worked with quite a few legends. Some of them are not around anymore, and a lot of them, you know, they were good people, but they just weren't down to earth like Martin is. He's a real actor. Right. He's an actor's actor, you know.
Now, another guy you worked with on that film that you worked with later on was Joe Estevez, and you guys were in The Catcher, and I have a copy of that somewhere on VHS. I have been frantically searching for it, and I can't find it right now. Kind of tell us a little bit about how you became involved with The Catcher, because you know, over the years the film has actually started to develop like this little cult following. So there are people that love that film.
Yeah. It's a very unique film. A good twist on. I won't give it away for anybody who wants to see it, but it's a good twist on a killer baseball movie. Joe and I worked that movie. You know, I was called to do the one of the leads in it, I guess at that time, because, you know, I had a name in the world of independent filmmaking, and they were putting different names in there. And there was another girl in there, too, that starred with me, and her name slips my mind right now, a real sweet gal. So basically it was the three of us, and it was just a fun movie. And it's always good to work with Joe. I just talked to Joe a couple of weeks ago when I was out in L.A., and we're going to try to do something else together here real soon.
Yeah, I tried to. I had him on the show a couple of months ago, and I brought that movie up, and he kind of hesitated for a second. He's like, "Can we not talk about that film?" So, I'm glad you two had a good time. Yeah, he really. I guess he gets the impression that he gave me from it. It's not that so much that he had a bad time making it. I guess it's just one of those films that when people see him, they immediately jump to and they ask him about it all the time. So I guess I could understand that, but it was a movie that I enjoyed. It was just a fun film. So I just wanted to get your impressions of it and working with him. So
yeah. Well, I've worked with Joe. I had Joe and I, the Stranger, with me and Martin Landau, and Joe and I starred in another movie called L.A. Goddess with me and Kathy Shower, and Joe was in it, and some other people. So. And then we worked another movie. I can't remember. But we've worked 3 or 4. We did Dawn of the Living Dead together. So, he's a great guy. I enjoy Joe.
Now, one that I wanted to ask you about, there's a PG version and a regular version. There was Crimes of the Chupacabra, which was a PG version of Guns of El Chupacabra. And originally the film was only released in Asia. Can you give us any insight on how it well, of course now with modern technology and everything, but how it came over here and why there were 2 different versions of the film?
That's a good question. The only thing I know about the movie, it was made by Donald Jackson. Don was a good friend of mine. He's passed away since, God rest his soul. That movie, my memory of that movie is Don picked me up at the airport. I was flying in from Nashville. He didn't even give me a script. He didn't even tell me where we were going. He just handed me a wad of cash. And he said, "I want you to be in this movie." Well, I said, "Great, can you kind of tell me a story?" He goes, "No, not really." He goes, So we went out in the desert, and the first scene was he gave me an AK-47, and he said, "Now I want you to aim at that can, but be as precise as you can. Try to hit that can. Don't deviate too much." I said, "No problem, Don. I'm pretty good." So I was shooting right past the camera, hitting this can. I started shooting, and I'll be darned if it wasn't real bullets in that AK-47.
Oh, no.
And I just about flipped. I said, "There's real bullets in here." And Don says, "Yeah, they sure are." And I said, "What in the world are you putting real bullets in here for?" And, of course, he was filming this whole thing with me, flying off the handle and everything. I guess he was trying to use it in the movie. I don't know. But anyway, it just went on. Scene after scene was just so... I guess bigger than life, it was very bizarre things that happened. So that's what I remember of that movie.
Oh, but it's a hell of a story to remember, though.
Yeah, we're lucky to be alive.
I've been on sets like that too, so I understand your feelings.
Yeah.
Now, another film I wanted to ask you about was 2002's Angel Blade. You wrote it, directed it, starred in it. I thought you had a really good cast in that film. I mean, you had Mark Singer, you had Margot Kidder, Richard Mall was in that film. By this point, there had been a couple of times where you had worn multiple hats, producer, writer, director. For you, do you find it easier or do you find it being difficult wearing all of those hats?
Well, I find it easier because if I'm on the set just acting or I'm on the set just directing, it's not enough for me to do. My career was spawned off of me acting, writing, directing, producing, because I didn't know any better. When I first started in this business, I could hire me cheaper than I could hire anybody. And I knew I would show up, And so, how do you say? I was just used to it. Now I went on to star in other movies that I didn't direct. So I'm not saying that I don't enjoy working with other directors. That's not one of them, because I've worked with great directors and I enjoy it. But you know, I'm getting ready to shoot starting this Saturday, and I'm writing and directing and starring and producing, and I hadn't done it in about a year, and so now it just feels, you know, it feels good to do it.
Well, an interesting side point. Again, when I was doing some research, your Wikipedia had stated that, you know, you had no film production education. You know, you didn't go to school for any of this. Kind of since you're spanning a period of time where filmmaking has changed so much, you know, can you talk about some of the things that you learned, some of the difficulties you experienced in the beginning, breaking in with no experience, and what do you think about how it is now for filmmakers that are breaking into the industry?
Well, let me address the first question. When I got into the industry, you had to have money, some money. You had to have some knowledge. I mean, and you had to hire people or get people work for free. But you had to have people. Okay, you couldn't shoot a film, and I'm talking shooting on film, for a crew less than 6 people. You had to have them. You had to have a DP. You had to have a first assistant camera. You needed someone to light and to gaff and to grip. You know, you just needed it, and you needed sometimes even a second AC to be a loader. And so it made you respect the process of filmmaking. I mean, it was because every time you turn the camera on, it was very expensive. You run film through the camera, it cost you for every foot of that film that ran through, you had to pay for it, and for developing. So there was a respect there. Digital came out, and I remember when digital, well, I'll say video, because I was one of the first guys to shoot a feature on video. I said, hey, this is pretty cool. And of course, you know, people thought it was crazy. And it didn't look good at that time, but I did anyway. And I did a thing called the film look. But I noticed on video, you had to have less people. I thought that was cool. You know, you could move a lot faster. And then digital came out, and now you can work with a 2-man crew, really. Right. I mean, you can work with a 1-man crew if he's holding the boom and operating the sound, doing the camera and lighting. But so it's a problem now because I feel sorry for the people in it just starting out, because it's so crowded, because everybody has a digital camera. I mean, you can shoot a movie on your iPhone, you know?
Yeah.
So the cachet and the glitter of, you know, filmmaking, of being a filmmaker, it's kind of been watered down by this digital revolution. So as good as it is, there are some downsides to it.
I would agree with you. The film I worked on, Mental Scars, we shot that on film, and you're right, it really is a unique experience that I think everyone who's making film should experience one time. You know, they don't realize a lot of times, like you said, you know, every little frame that you run and that you print, you know, you have to pay for that. You know, you have to take into consideration things like, you know, your light, your sound, and things like that. It is a lost art in terms of filmmaking. But, you know, for you, you know, do you feel like you would have benefited any from getting any kind of education, or do you feel like crash coursing into it was the way to go?
Yeah, who knows if I would have learned any. I mean, I'm sure I would have learned something in film school, but I wouldn't have learned the way I did on the streets, how I started, just going out and doing it. Right. There's no way I would have learned that. I wouldn't have learned that in film school. Now, I'm not saying film school is bad. There's certain parts of film school that's good, but there's also certain parts of film school that is a very it drags on forever, and the spaceship never leaves the planet, if you know what I'm saying. It just kind of floats around, hovers over the earth. And right. I say, if you're going to go to film school, you need a plan. If you're going to spend $50,000, have a plan. Go make your own movie, either right after film school or during film school, and go out and try to sell it and learn what the real world is all about.
I mean, I agree. A lot of people ask me that about effects work, and I'm like, if I went to school, sure, there are things that I could learn, but there were so many things that I learned on the set and on the fly, and those are abilities that you have to have as a filmmaker, or an actor, and I'm sure you would agree with that. The ability, adaptability, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And with your special effects, did you learn on the streets, or did you go to school to learn all that?
No, I'm completely self-taught. That was years of, I was raised on late 70s, through the 80s horror films. So, I grew up watching the Savinis and the Bakers and the Gianetto de Rossis and, the people like that. So I have an appreciation for the old school way of doing it as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too.
Now, you had touched on it when you talked about you had worked with Joe on a couple films, but we have, in 2004, Dawn of the Living Dead, which was renamed Evil Grave, Curse of the Maya. First of all, can you tell us why? What was it, a distribution thing for changing the title?
Yeah. They for some reason, somebody in one of the countries changed the title to, I think it was Dawn of the Living Dead, and they changed it to Curse of the Maya. And that happens a lot. They'll change a title. I mean, and for some reason that one stuck out. I don't know why. But it's the same movie. Nothing was changed in the edit. They just retitled it.
Now, again, you starred in this film. You had Amanda Ballman with you, Joe, of course. And one of the things that I found interesting, because I've actually seen this film, I liked your selection of Todd Bridges in the film. I always like it when a director or producer has the idea to bring in somebody that you're not expecting. Kind of tell us what led you to bringing Todd into the film.
Well, I knew Todd. He's a great guy. And I said, how'd you like to do something that nobody else is going to ask you to do? And he said, I'd like that. I said, I want you to play a man who's mentally challenged, And he said, oh, it's cool. So he did. And it worked, and it was fun. And I did the same with Roddy Piper in
Costa Chica.
Called, it came out as Legion, the Final Exorcism. Mm-hmm. And again, Costa Chica, that was an IMDb thing. Costa Chica was the working script when we shot it. That movie was shot over a 3-year period because it's a true story. And so the people who worked on the movie, they wanted their IMDb credit. So they introduced it to IMDb as Costa Chica. And so somehow that movie carried that title. That wasn't the name of the movie. The guy's name was San Chica, but, on the script, I usually have a working title. I don't give the real title, because somebody will steal it. So I think on the script, I probably put Costa Chica, and it got that name, but that's not the name of it. It was. Then I was going to call it Confessions of an Exorcist, and I thought, I don't like that. So we ended up calling it Legion, the Final Exorcism. But anyway, I put Roddy Piper in it, and he plays kind of a mentally challenged guy who's an alcoholic.
I was going to ask you, because people listen to the show now, I've been a huge pro wrestling fan as well all my life. How was it working with him? How was he as an actor as opposed to what? I don't know if you watched wrestling as a kid, but growing up over the years, Piper, was the legendary bad guy. What was he like working with on set?
Oh, he was great. His daughter also starred in it, and he was just a dad, and he hung out, and he was a great guy. I didn't, to be honest with you, I did like wrestling. I just never watched it.
Right.
And I had heard of Roddy Piper, obviously, but actually I knew of him from doing a movie for Don Jackson called Hell Comes to Frogtown. And
yes.
Don showed me the movie, and I said, Don, I like that dude. Who is that guy? He said, that's Roddy Piper, the wrestler. I said, oh, very cool, very cool. And so I met Roddy some years later down the road, and I said, let's do a movie together one day. He said, great. And so I started casting this movie, Legion, the Final Exorcism, and this girl came to my office and blew me away, and I cast her as the lead. And Roddy called me and says, hey, it's time to work together. I said, what are you talking about? He goes, well, you just cast my daughter as the lead. And I said, really? Because she had a different name,
Right.
And I said, well, why don't you come be in this, And anyway, he played that part.
I think that's pretty cool. I mean, and I have to tell you, ultimate cool points just because you mentioned Hell Comes to Frogtown on the show. You get bonus points for that one. Because that's one of those. I mean, that's like one of those guilty pleasure movies that, I'll watch it every now and then, and I won't tell anyone I watched it, but I enjoyed the hell out of it. So for you to mention that movie is that's really cool.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, Don Jackson, he made a bunch of these movies. And, back even when I was making my bigger budget HBO stuff, Don was making this stuff for like $5,000, and there was a movie shot called Rollerblade, and Rollerblade something or other. It's a girl on roller skates, and I mean, it made no sense whatsoever. It was just roller skates, but I'd sit there and watch it, and I go, for some reason I just like this kind of stuff, and I started thinking maybe I need to go see a psychiatrist or something, but in any case, Don became a good friend of mine. He's a great guy, and he loved filmmaking. You could see his heart in all these movies,
Like I said, I just think it's cool. I'm going to do a DVD review of that one night, and I'll make sure to stamp your name alongside of that.
Yeah, Don made another movie.
What's that?
Don made another movie that I did a cameo in called Twisted Fate. Twisted Fate, I think it was. Well, you know what? I'll think of the other title. You wouldn't know it by Twisted Fate, but when I think of it, I'll mention it to you. But go ahead. What were you going to say?
Well, what I was going to ask you was a lot of the younger generation, you're right, won't remember, again, I was born in 1976, so when I grew up, cable was still a new thing, watching a movie on USA or HBO or Showtime back in that time period was kind of a big deal. Like on Saturday nights, my biggest thing was they had the Saturday Nightmares on USA, and I would always watch the films and stuff that was on that. But you mentioned, the time that you made films for HBO and USA, and that was a different time in filmmaking. Kind of talk about what it was like working on films for those companies, what they were looking for and how much creative license they gave you.
Well, HBO just let me do whatever I want because they knew I was kind of like the poor man's Clint Eastwood, I did Prime Target with me and Tony Curtis and Isaac Hayes, and that was kind of like a gauntlet. I did Twisted Justice with me and Eric Estrada and Shannon Tweed. That was a sci-fi, straight up action Eastwood kind of a thing. So they were very easy. I was very lucky, and they just kind of let me do what I wanted to do. USA. If you remember a show called Up All Night, I think Joe Bob Briggs. Made a movie for them. It was nobody knows this, I don't think, but it was called Jurassic Women, and it had Jan Michael Vincent in it. And I was the producer on it. I mean, I was the guy that put it all together, but I didn't direct it and I didn't star in it or anything like that. But it was my brainchild, and I kind of threw it together.
See, now I got to find that poster, and you're ever at a convention, that's the poster you're going to have to sign for me.
Absolutely.
I will find one. Now, there's the next film on your resume that I wanted to ask you about. I couldn't really find anything. Even your IMDb does not give a description. What can you tell us about Psycho Weene?
Not a whole lot. It's kind of like a Rocky Horror Picture Show. It never got released, I think, but just like one country, Germany or something, released it. It was so wild and bizarre and out there that I just think it was too wild for people, you know, and it's one of those kind of movies that you do it and then you wake up one morning and go, did I really do that? Or maybe I shouldn't have done that. Or maybe my kids are going to hate me when they grow up, you know. So it wasn't a bad thing. It was just bizarre. I don't know. You know, I think every filmmaker makes one of those kinds of movies that's just kind of off the wall, you know, and
right.
You know, and I have people ask me about it every once in a while, and that's it. I think it was sold to Germany because I did some PR in Germany for it, and it wasn't released here.
Yeah, I try to do as much thorough research as I can when I have someone on, and that was one I couldn't really find any info on. So I'll see if I can find out anything about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, of course, you know, you have done stuff for USA, HBO, you know, independent stuff, studio work, but you know, you've done some stuff on TV too. You were in Fugitive X, Innocent Target, which was a TV movie, but you appeared in an episode of Hunter, the TV series. Kind of talk about, you know, did you enjoy working for television? Was there, I mean, of course, you've gone on to do more. Recently, you were in The Journeys and Lollapalooza. You know, do you prefer one over the other? Do you like TV acting more? Do you feel like there's more prep work there, or, you know, what are your thoughts?
No, not really. I mean, television just moves fast. It just, you know, it comes and goes. It's gone before you even know you did it. It's good. It's a good workout. It's consistent if you land a series and you're a regular. But I prefer features. You know, I like a beginning and I like an end. You know, and
right.
I don't like things to just go on forever. Because I like to take a vacation every couple of months and go away for a couple of months and just kind of regroup. You can't do that with television.
No, that's very true. Now, one that just strikes me as funny. It's, you know, not horror related, but it looks like something I might just be able to sit back and enjoy. And you worked with two people in particular that I have a lot of respect for, Robert Zadar and Julie Strain, and that's Rock and Roll Cops 2, The Adventure Begins.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about that project? And 12 years later, there's Rock and Roll Cops Light all these years.
I don't know. It's a movie that pops up on interviews and so forth, and I see clips of it. It was just one of those, again, Don Jackson, very bizarre, kind of out there movie. You know, it was fun. A guy named Scott Shaw, I think he was in it with me. And, Julie Strain was in it, and I think she had some guy beating her or something in some mansion somewhere. And it was a very bizarre movie. Very bizarre. But it was fun. It was a Don Jackson movie.
Now, one that seems a little interesting, and I have not seen this one, Memphis Rising, Elvis Returns. Yeah.
Now, that movie, it's funny, I just finished, just before I called in for this interview, I just finished, I got out of the studio, the voiceover for the movie. The movie's never been released. They shot it some years ago, I think like 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, and it was bought out by another company who's going to do a big release on it this coming year. It's very cool the way they redid it. it's very cool. And so it's about Elvis, and it's about Elvis who he was kidnapped by aliens and taken to another planet, and he finally comes back. I play an Elvis impersonator. So when the real Elvis gets up and starts singing, I realize, hey, this is not an impersonator. This dude's the real deal. And so I start investigating and find out, the FBI's involved, aliens, and, Area 52 and all. Yeah, it's kind of silly, but it's kind of a fun, silly movie,
Looking over actors that you've worked with, we had mentioned Martin Landau, but, you've also worked with Tony Curtis, Karen Black, and you work with what a lot of people consider to be cult actors like Eric Estrada and, of course, Joe Estevez, Mark Singer, Margot Kidder, Oliver Reed, and, you've even worked with Ornis Borgnine. Kind of tell me, over the years of doing all the work and the stuff that you do in your films, how do you approach actors when you have a role? Do you envision some of these people? Are you one of these directors that has a lot of casting auditions?
Well, for the name actors, I don't audition them. I wrote Prime Target with Tony Curtis in mind, and I sent it to Tony, and his agent and my agent was the same agent, so that was convenient. And he liked it, and he wanted. Pardon?
I said it helps having the same agent.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. Well, it helps and it hurts. It can backfire on you if you're not careful. But he liked it. He wanted to do it, and he did it. So I cast him and Isaac Hayes, Andy Robinson, who played the bad guy in Dirty Harry. Jenny Lee Harrison was in it. Robert Reed from the Brady Bunch. Gosh, there were, I don't know, 2 or 3 other name actors in it.
I mean, it's... Sorry, my mind. I'm reading like 8 things at a time. It's just amazing, the list that you worked with, and I think that's something that I like is, you'll put the name actor in there too, and then one of the things that seems to be a trend in horror films, you look at Quentin Tarantino and people like that, Rob Zombie, who bring back some of these, late 70s, early 80s film and TV icons.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts? I mean, it's a shame to see, that some of them disappear for a while and then they come back, which is always nice. But, what is it now that you think fans are seeing in these actors and actresses that maybe they didn't initially see?
Well, I think it's 2 things. One, it's a new generation that discovers, these actors you don't hear from anymore. And then there's the old generation that remembers them. And Quentin Tarantino had a unique way of marrying the 2 together. And so my, kudos to him and my hat's off. But I like to bring back guys that you haven't seen in quite some time. And I even did that, in the 90s and early 2000s. I brought people back that you had not, heard of or seen in a long time. And I'm trying to think as we speak. I did a movie called Kill Crazy about a bunch of Vietnam vets being taken out we're mental patients and we're being taken out by the orderlies, but they're actually selling us to some white supremacists that's going to hunt us down and use us for a game. That had Burt Ward in it, of the Batman and Robin. It had Lauren Tilton Jacob in it, played Boom Boom Washington and Welcome Back, Kotter. Had Bruce Glover, and Bruce was in Walking Tall, and also I think one of the James Bond movies, and a couple other guys that you would know. So I would bring people back like that, or go find them. They weren't working, or they'd been on drugs for a couple of years and they're drying out. And I enjoy that.
Right. Well, no,
I enjoy bringing me back. Sometimes I have to go look for me and find me and, bring me back. So
you got to be on top of your game. And like I said, it's, I liked what you said earlier about, some actors being real and approachable and being real people. And that's definitely the impression I get from you as well. I can only imagine with everything that you do how busy your schedule is.
Yeah.
Now, and one of the things I wanted to ask you, especially, we talk about how it was in the early days, how it is now. Have you ever been out to any of the conventions, and what are your thoughts on them and what it does for filmmakers today?
I think conventions are great. I haven't been to any, and it's not because I don't like them. I do like them. It's just I'm just not, I'm working, I'm shooting, I'm making films, so I just don't really, conventions are not on my radar. And I don't know, if I showed up at a convention, I don't know how many people would want to, autograph their whatever it is. I mean, I have no idea, I mean, I got a few fans out there, but
I got to get my Jurassic Women poster signed.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
you got to show up one sooner or later. That's the one I'll go to.
I actually did one, and actually was pretty successful. I take it back. I don't know, 4 years ago, I did a thing called Fright Night, the Fright Night Film Festival in Louisville, Kentucky. Are you familiar with that one?
I have not been to it, but that sounds like the one that's the big one that they do every year out there.
Yeah. Ken Daniels runs that, and I've known Ken for many years, and he called me and asked me if I would come out and sign autographs, and I did, and it was pretty fun. People showed up with pictures and posters that I never even, thought they would, and
right.
They even knew some of the lines to my movie, some of the dialogue, which is kind of funny, So.
Well, I was going to ask you about that too, since you've experienced it at least once, and to this day, even in regular life, what is interaction like with, when you run into fans? Are you sometimes surprised by how much knowledge they have of the scope of your work?
Oh yeah, because the field that I play in, it's not the big studio pictures, it's indie. They call it the indie B world, and I like it. That's where I've always stayed, and that's what I've always enjoyed because I love the freedom. I just love the vibe,
Right.
And so I never, try to, even think that this stuff is, huge and people are watching it all over the world. And so when I get people from different parts of the world and they come up to me and go, hey, man, I got all your movies, or I see stuff on the internet, or it's kind of bizarre because, I'm not in the business for that. And but yeah, it's a nice bazaar. It's a nice, it's a good thing that happens. I'm not poo-pooing it at all.
Definitely. I mean, even me, I certainly don't consider myself, a star of any kind, but it's always nice when someone recognizes your work and, someone spent that time looking at something that you personally put your time and effort into. So I definitely get that.
Yeah, well, you are a star. I mean, you create the special effects and you do things that other people can't do, and they, that's creative art in its own form. And there's always people admirers that admire, certain kinds of art. So embrace it and love it, my friend, while it's here.
Oh, I mean, it is. It's very flattering. It's, I'm like, hey, it makes a difference knowing that somewhere across the world someone saw your movie and they enjoyed it. It made a difference to them in some way.
Yeah.
Now, your next project, of course, according to IMDb, is Ghost Aliens. Kind of tell us what you can, because it doesn't give any kind of status on the film. But is there anything you can tell us about the film, how you became involved with it? Well,
I can't because of what my when I'm obligated, not obligated to. But I will be in a couple of months. If you ask me, I can talk to you about that. But I can tell you that there's a new show coming out which I directed, starred, produced, and it's a horror. It's a trilogy, and that'll be coming out in about right before Halloween of this year, and I'm excited about that because it's a really good piece, and I shot it all last year, and we're just wrapping up next week on it. So, a trilogy of horror films.
I'm definitely interested in that. Well, I will definitely think about that.
Yeah, they were stories written by Drock von Stoller, and if you and a lot of them are legends, they're urban legends, like Bloody Mary, these stories these kids have passed around year after year. So it's very cool. It's they're 5 to 10 minutes long, and there's 7 of them, and they're all married together in one movie. It's very cool.
Now you've been doing this for what, 30 years now. If you look at it all the way back from the beginning till now, did you ever think you would be where you are, that your body of work would be as expansive as it is?
Yeah, it's been, I think, 26, almost 27 years. No, because, my goal was to make one movie and try to sell it and get enough money to make another movie. Never in a million years would I ever think I had made 30-some-odd movies. No. I've just been very blessed and very lucky. God's been good to me, and I thank God, for it.
Now, you had talked about you enjoy the freedom of working on independent film and the things that it allows you to do. I'm sure that there are plenty of projects that you've looked at that that almost happened, that didn't happen, things along those lines. If you were given the blank check and said you can make any film you want, a remake, what would you choose and why?
You mean which one of my movies would I remake?
No. What if you were given a blank check by a studio and said you can remake any movie you want to make? What would it be?
Okay, so if I could make any movie, but not necessarily a movie that's already been made, you're saying just any movie, or one that's been made, but any movie that's been made?
Well, one that's been remade, because the trend certainly in the genre today is, let's just remake it. Well, we'll make it a bucket of money. But from a passionate standpoint, if you had the chance to remake any film and were given the blank check, what would it be?
Oh, I would definitely remake. I would remake. It would be a hybrid between Dirty Harry and Death Wish. I would definitely, but not Death Wish like I think they remade that, if I'm not mistaken, and I think it flopped if it was even released. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about going back to Fink when he made Dirty Harry, and just the real deal. It's very gritty, very real. I would go back there because we got so much evil in the world, and people are in trouble. I mean, it's just bad, But we need Dirty Harry to show back up, and we need Paul Kirshner to get back on the scene again. Charles Bronson. So I would do that because I love revenge movies. I love to see a guy get kicked around, beat up to a pulp, and then he turns around and he just beats the crap out of the bad guy.
Now, certainly in a lot of your work, you can see elements of that early, I'll say it gently because some filmmakers take offense to this, some don't. You can see elements of the whole exploitation and, the grindhouse style of filmmaking, which is a style that I particularly enjoy. And it seemed like for the longest time it was a lost art in terms of making films. What do you think about young filmmakers today trying to emulate a style of filmmaking that, you know, of course, we both grew up watching, and a style that you have experience in?
Well, I know they're out there, but I haven't seen them yet. But I know they're out there. Most young filmmakers don't know how to make a real revenge movie. They don't know how to create a hero, and it's not their fault. You know, it's just the good has gotten bad and the bad has gotten good. Everything's gray, you know, and so they don't really understand the rhythm of a good guy and the rhythm of a bad guy, simply because they haven't been introduced to it. And it's very simple. If you look at the 80s, 70s, and 80s movies, and some of the 90s, but it got lost in the 90s, it's a very simple character, a guy who you can relate to. He's an everyday guy. He gets screwed over, and you just feel like you're that guy. And then you want the guy to pick up a club or a gun or something and just, you know, do somebody in. I'm talking the bad guy, not just anybody.
Right.
So they don't know how to do it. I haven't seen it. And perhaps they will learn one day, but the generation we're in right now, they just haven't been exposed to it. And I love the people that watch these 80s movies and 90s and like it. I love those people because it tells me that they still understand good and they still understand evil.
Right.
And good wins. Good needs to win.
Now, something that I wanted to ask you about, because I haven't seen any new dates, but when I was looking over your website, I saw something for the Academy of Film and Acting, and it's where students were being taught by you. Can you kind of tell us a little bit about the Hefner Academy of Film and Acting? Yeah,
it's a nonprofit. I don't do it for the money, but I do charge. And I do it all over the country. I don't do it full time because I still make movies, but it's a love, and I try to share what knowledge I have with other people. And that's what it is. I'm here in Atlanta, Georgia. I have a 5,000 square foot building. I'm shooting films here, but I'm also teaching here also, and I'm teaching writing, how to write a winning script, and how to get audition and get the part. So if anybody's interested, they can always email me. Is it okay if I give out my email?
Oh yeah, I was going to ask you at the end of the show to give out any links, anything you want to give out.
Yeah, well, it's no big deal. They can just email me at my name, David, at davidheavener.com. So it's my first name at my first and last name.com, and that's heaven with an ER. And if they're interested, they can just contact me, and I or my assistant will get the email and get back with them.
I mean, I think that's really great. And you also, you also offer acting classes as well, correct?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I teach acting, I teach writing, and I teach filmmaking.
Yeah, I mean,
again,
it looks like it's a great experience.
Yeah, I don't do it, I'm not like a full-time acting teacher because, I'm a director and I'm a filmmaker, so that's what I do. But when I have off time, I put 2 or 3 or 4 classes a year together, and I do it because I enjoy it.
Well, see, and I kind of like that as a director, you going back and doing this and trying to bring something back to the young talent who are trying to break in. As a director, when you're giving these lessons, when you're, just as a small example, like one of the biggest things that I had to break when I was on camera was it's so damn hard not to focus. Your eyes are drawn to the camera. Like, you know what I'm talking about. It seems like that's something that every new actor goes through. What kind of encouragement do you give to these young kids? Because I know a lot of them come on set, very nervous, and sometimes they lose their chance because they're so nervous. They're afraid to ask or ask for direction. As a director, how much do you feel responsible for making your actors comfortable and putting them in that spot where you want them?
Well, I teach a thing called full power consciousness, which is what I use. And full power consciousness is really a mind game to where you believe that you have power to do whatever it is you need to do. And so it's all about feeding that into your subconscious mind. And, if you believe that, you will pretty much own the room. And so I've used that for years, and it's always worked for the most part. Sometimes, you slip, but the reason most actors fail is not because of their ability to act. It's because of their ability to be confident, their ability to focus, their ability to be in the moment. See, they're fearful, so they're thinking about what might happen, and that takes you out of the moment. You just can't do it. When I started the business, I had a lot of things that kept me in the moment. I was forced to. Number one, if I messed up, it cost me a lot of money because every time you'd run film through the camera, I could burn up $2,000 easy by messing up. So I said to myself, you're not going to mess up, and I didn't. I mean, I did, but I didn't as much as I could have. And then working with the people I worked with, the name talent, Tony Curtis and Martin Landau, and a bunch of those. I mean, these guys are old pros. You've got to, you cannot work with these guys in the same scene if you're not up to their level, or you're going to look like a real idiot, So I was forced to make it work. I didn't have a choice, and I guess I put myself in that place so that I would.
Well, I think that goes along too. One of the things I tell people when they ask me, did I go to school, and I said no, and I said, there are things that are going to happen on a film set that I don't care where you go to school, they don't teach you that stuff. There are just circumstances that happen, and I'm sure you would agree, with everything that you've worked on. Not everything goes the way that you design it to go.
No. It will usually go the other way, 9 times out of 10. And you have to be prepared. No matter how hard you try. No matter how hard you try, yeah. Now, film school is a good thing, but it can also be a world of make-believe, where it's just la-la land. You never get out into the real world,
Right. I would agree. Well, David, I want to thank you so much for coming on. If people want to get in contact with you, please give your website, Facebook, Twitter, anything that you want to mention here to let your fans know where you're at, what's going on.
Yeah, well, you can just type in my name, for Facebook. You can go to davidheavener.com. You can email me at david@davidheavener.com. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you have about the classes or whatever. I also do private coaching. Again, I don't do it full time, and I'm not the cheapest guy in the world because I do it out of love, and I do it sporadically. So, but I do have classes coming up in February. I'm going to be taking off February and March. I'm not going to be shooting, and so I'm going to be teaching during that time. So if anybody's interested, let me know. And I also do phone coaching. I can teach over the phone also. But thank you very much. I've enjoyed doing your show.
Oh, I appreciate you coming on. Look, anytime you have any news related to the genre, please feel free to contact me. We're friends on Facebook. You ever want to come on again, let me know. You're always welcome. Yeah,
I will. Well, thank you, and thank you for all the memories. I've just walked down memory lane, so I'll sleep good tonight dreaming of all these great memories you brought up.
Well, thank you. You were absolutely a great interview, and like I said, when I track down my poster of Jurassic Women, you're going to sign it.
I'll give you my signature and Jan Michael Vincent if I can find Jan somewhere. So.
All right. Well, that's the deal. I will track it down.
All right. Well, thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, David.
Good. Yeah, I enjoyed your show, and God bless.
You too. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, that was actor, director, and producer David Heavener. Make sure to check out some of his films: Deadly Reactor, Dragon Fury, Guns of El Chupacabra, The Catcher, which I highly recommend, Outlaw Prophet, Dawn of the Living Dead, a.k.a. Evil Grave, Curse of the Maya, Costa Chica, Confessions of an Exorcist, Psycho Weene, if you can find it, hell, I think he wants to find a copy of that too. And of course, when we get news about his upcoming film, Ghost Aliens, we will get more info on that. Coming up in a few minutes, we're going to do our Scream Factory Blu-ray release of Candyman, Farewell to the Flesh. But before that, we're going to go into our final Metal Blade Spotlight segment. We're going to open it up with some new Cannibal Corpse from the CD A Skeletal Domain, the song High Velocity Impact Spatter. That was Goat Whore. The CD was Constricting Rage of the Merciless. The song was Cold Earth Consumed in Dying Flesh. We opened that set up with some Cannibal Corpse from their CD A Skeletal Domain. The song was High Velocity Impact Spatter. Coming up in a second, we're going to go into our Scream Factory Blu-ray spotlight on Candyman, Farewell to the Flesh. But I think Joe Williamson is on the line with me. Joe, is that you?
Yes. Hey, how you doing? Sorry, I was just calling in to listen into the show.
Oh, it's all good, man.
Sorry about that.
I saw you call in, and I'm like, oh, why is Joe calling? I guess David was an absolute incredible interview. I just wanted to tell you that, man. I appreciate from the bottom of my heart you getting him on here as a guest. Just an amazing wealth of information from a great filmmaker.
It's my pleasure. And it's an honor and privilege. Anything I can do, my friend.
Kind of tell us, if you can, real quick, before I get to the DVD review, tell us about how you came to meet David.
He was going to my church, and he's been, he was going to my church for years, and that's how we first met. And he's a great guy. And he's worked. It's amazing all the people he's worked with. Everybody from Eric Estrada to Isaac Hayes.
I know. Well, when he said Isaac Hayes, hell, I almost lost my shit when he brought up Hell Comes to Frogtown.
No, it's just incredible talent he is, and the people he's worked with has just been amazing.
Well, I'm going to let you know, we kind of have a running thing going now. If I find a poster of his produced film Jurassic Women, he's going to sign it, and he's going to get Jan Michael Vincent to sign it too. So I thought you'd get a kick out of that.
No, that'd be awesome. I never got to see that movie, but it sounded pretty good.
I know, right? I got to find it now just because he brought it up.
I'm going to look that one up. I never knew about it.
Yeah, well, he said no one really knew about it. He said he was just kind of on the production end of it. He got it all put together. So I'm damn sure going to find a poster of it just to have it. Is there anything you want to let the fans know about David before I go into the DVD review?
No, I think that you covered it all. Great show. Just want to say, as always, Michael, you're the best, and appreciate you having them on. Thank you so much.
You know it, Joe. And I know we have some good guests lined up in the coming weeks, too.
Sure do. A lot of great ones. I look forward to talking to you soon, my friend.
You know it, brother. I'll talk to you soon.
Later.
All right. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, that was Joe Williamson, talent finder extraordinaire, agent of agents. If you're looking for an agent, that's the guy you need to go to. But now it's time for some digital dismemberment.
Digital dismemberment.
And in our final digital dismemberment spotlight for the evening, we are going to be covering Scream Factory's Blu-ray release of the Billy Condon film Candyman, Farewell to the Flesh, starring Tony Todd and Kelly Rowan. His myth has endured for generations. His legacy is eternal rage. And now he's back with a vengeance. A film by award-winning filmmaker Billy Condon and based on legendary Clive Barker's popular short story, Candyman Farewell to the Flesh continues the tale of the phantom-like figure who wreaks a terrible fate upon those who chant his name 5 times while looking into a mirror and come face to face with grisly death. Executive produced by Clive Barker, the cult horror hit Candyman Farewell to the Flesh stars Tony Todd and Kelly Rowan, with Timothy Carhart as Paul McKeever and Veronica Cartwright as Octavia. A victim of unspeakable evil while he lived, the Candyman has become evil incarnate in his afterlife. This time he haunts the city of New Orleans, where a young school teacher named Annie Tarrant is struggling to solve the brutal murder of her father. The locals insist that he was slain by the Candyman, but Annie is not convinced, until she unwittingly summons the monster forth, learns the secret of his power, and discovers the link that connects her to him. but can she stop him before he kills again? You know, I thought this was a film that was a great follow-up sequel to the original. I liked the backdrop of New Orleans for both the character and his backstory. It kind of leads to a lot more credibility and believability in the character. And to have the story taking place during Mardi Gras, you know, definitely adds to the backdrop. You know, it's kind of an interesting story. Those, you know, that don't believe the urban legend find out that the urban legend exists. And, you know, in this case, Annie's brother is suspected of killing a teacher from a college in Candyman style, and their father had been murdered the same way, and several vagrants, local drunks, and the unwanteds. So he's been arrested, and Annie goes out to try and clear his name, and there's a lot of backstory that involves the mother. The story is never so convoluted that it's not interesting, that it doesn't lead to things. And Annie is basically forced to watch as the people in her life are slowly killed by the Candyman. And at one point, she is considered to be the killer as well. The connection to her students is a nice touch into the film that kind of gives her the backdrop of how she hears about the Candyman and how she says his name 5 times in a mirror in the classroom to try and dissuade the kids into believing that he is real. But later on in the film, of course, as we find out, the Candyman is very much real, and Annie has now summoned him. But there's a lot of backstory involving them, including finding out that Candyman is, you know, a part of her family down the line. So there's a lot of backstory involved with the character and his motivations for what he does and why he does them. Again, I thought the locations were really well done. Some of the artwork in the film, the graffiti, especially in the old slave quarters, you know, is really magnificent to behold. I think the art is extremely well done, and your eye definitely gravitates towards it. So the art direction for the film is really sweet. Again, I like the cast and the crew. You definitely see how Kelly Rowan has similarities to the actress from the first film. So I thought that was a nice touch. And again, it kind of takes away the need to do a prequel, quote unquote. I mean, you can always go back to more detail, but the interesting you know, the family spin on the story really takes it in another direction. The film certainly doesn't lack in blood and gore. There's plenty there for the gore hounds and the people looking for the red stuff flowing everywhere. Scream Factory, once again, does an amazing job with the special features. You have the audio commentary with director Billy Condon. What I really liked was the new interview with Tony Todd, the Candyman Legacy. It's about a half-an-hour interview. Tony really dives into, you know, the character, the locations, talking about the subtle nuances of what he brought to the film, the cultural implications that the character had, you know, losing the original jacket and his name, you know, just all kinds. There's so much information there in that 30 minutes that it's really worth looking at. There's also Down Memory Lane, and that's an interview with Veronica Cartwright. It's about 12, 13 minutes. And of course, you have the theatrical trailer, and then there's the other more from Scream Factory, trailers from 3 of their other films. So again, you know, the artwork is very nice. It's the original artwork. Just again, a well put together disc. The colors are very sharp. The sound is amazing. A well put together film. I would give the film a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I thought the original Candyman was a better film. It's very hard with sequels to come up with something that tops the original, but this was definitely a very admirable effort and a film that it would be enjoyable to sit down and watch. As far as the disc as a whole, I would give it an 8 out of 10. I thought the interview with Tony Todd was extremely entertaining. The interview with Veronica Cartwright was nice as well. Of course, we always have the theatrical trailer and the bonus trailers, more from Scream Factory. So you should be able to head on over to Scream Factory or ShoutFactory.com and pick up your copy there. You should be able to go to your local big box retailer, probably your Best Buy, and be able to pick it up, and Amazon.com. So make sure to head out and pick up your copy of Candyman Farewell to the Flesh. It's been a hell of a week, and next week is going to be no different. But just to give you a little bit of background information, make sure to head on over to livingdeadmagazine.com and pick up issue number 6 of Living Dead Magazine. You could celebrate the new year with one of the most influential names in horror, Rob Zombie. Through his film, music, and popular brand, Rob Zombie and the talent he surrounds himself with have helped influence and design our horror culture and what it truly means to live a horror lifestyle. His passion and unique take on horror is why this magazine exists, so we are honored to have an entire issue celebrating his work, his talented friends who have made his vision a reality, the huge names who have influenced Rob Zombie, and this new age of zombies. This issue features interviews with Rob, of course, Bela Lugosi Jr., Sid Haig, the Dead Man himself interviewing Bill Moseley. There's a member of the Walking Dead cast, and it's wrapped up into an explosive package with artwork by the legendary Alex Horley. So make sure to head on over there and check out the latest issue of Living Dead Magazine. And don't forget that coming up in November is going to be Living Dead's Horror Meets Paranormal Convention, which will be Portland's first all-horror and paranormal convention. There's going to be actors, authors, artists, musicians, dancers, and more. There'll be live entertainment, freak shows, oddities, burlesque. There'll be costume contests, panels, and nonstop film screenings. It is from November 13th through November 15th, 2015 at the Oregon Convention Center in Portland, Oregon. Make sure to head over to www.livingdeadmagazine.com for more details on that. The big news for next week's show, we are going to have a true legend on the show. It's not often you get to have someone who basically creates a genre. And next week, we are going to have the godfather of gore, Herschel Gordon Lewis, and producer James Sato on to talk about their new project and everything that's going on with them. Diabolic Magazine was really helpful in securing this, so make sure to check out HorrorSociety.com and Diabolic Magazine for all the details coming up on Herschel Gordon Lewis and James Sato being the next guests on our show. I want to say thank you to our guest tonight, actor, director, and producer David Hefner, for coming on. I thought it was a very informative interview, so make sure you run out and check out his work. I want to say thank you to Tom Chen and the staff over at Scream Factory for sending our copy of Candyman Farewell to the Flesh for a review. Thank you to the kind folks over at Zallerquad Films for sending me Klagger for a review. And in 2 weeks, look for those gentlemen to be on the show to talk about the film some more. Lastly, we want to say thank you to all of our friends at Metal Blade Records for providing us with such great metal music to listen to. So make sure to tune in next week as we have Herschel Gordon Lewis, the godfather of gore on. Until then, this is the Dead Man telling you all to rest in peace.